Hello, everyone.
Hello.
That's my mum. We are here on the day before Halloween, and we've decided to share some spooky stories with you. Nothing too scary, but we're just going to talk about spooky stuff. So I'll be posting this on Halloween itself. So I hope you're having a nice Halloween, and maybe we can keep you occupied and busy on Halloween. So, hello, Mum.
Hello.
Where do you want to start?
What do you want to... What's the most scary thing that's happened to you then?
Well, let's start with you. I'll interview you. Can you remember your earliest spooky experience?
Let me think. I remember when I was... Well, I wasn't really very young, but when I was, I would say in my 20s, quite often there used to be this figure that used to stand at the end of my bed. And he looked a bit like a monk, dressed as a monk. But I couldn't see his face or anything. But
Did he have a bald head?
No, it was like just a hooded figure. But
That's
I
horrible.
couldn't see his face. And it used to happen quite regular. And when I told my mother, I said to her, sometimes when I wake up, there's this man at the end of my bed. And remember, I'm in my 20s. I'm not very
What, so you live
young.
by yourself?
No, I was living with my parents at the time. And my mum always said to me, she says, "Are you scared?" And I says, "No, funnily enough, I'm not. I wasn't scared or anything. But when I sort of looked a few times, he disappeared." And she says, "That usually means that somebody's making sure you're okay. They're taking care of you."
Oh, that's nice.
Which is a bit strange in a way.
Maybe there's a monk in the family.
I know, but it just seemed like a dark figure, but that's the way I can describe it.
But you didn't feel
No,
scared or
I was
anything?
never-
It wasn't a bad feeling?
No, I was never scared of anything like that.
I remember Nana, your mum, used to always tell me spooky things.
Yeah.
She was quite... I think she believed in it, didn't she?
Yeah, well, her dad was supposed to be a bit of a psychic.
Why?
I don't know, he used to say things and they used to happen.
Did he curse anyone?
No, not really. That's a bad thing. You shouldn't do things like that.
Didn't he also have a book of herbal...
Yeah, herbal
Remedies.
medicines, which my mum used all the time. She always had these really, really strange, weird remedies for curing things, but they always worked. Like we used to, I remember my dad wasn't very well, and he used to get these like growths in his thigh,
Ugh.
and she used to send us across to the woods because we had woods behind us. And we used to get, it was called chickweed, but I don't know if that's the right name for the plant. But it was like a green plant with little yellow sort of flowery daisies. And she used to boil it and mix it with bicarbonate of soda.
Ugh.
And it was like green sludge. It looked disgusting. And she used to put it on my dad's legs. And it used to, for some reason, it used to remove the root. When she took it was called a poultice. And when she took that off, the root used to come out of it.
Ugh, that's awful.
So she had
But
all
it didn't
these...
work.
Yeah, she had all these cures and everything.
Maybe that was why she was into the sort of spooky things.
Yeah.
Spiritual things.
What about you? What's your...
Well, the house I grew up in was a bit weird, wasn't it? There was a few things that happened there. Like one time I was playing outside swing ball. If anyone remembers swing ball, God, I used to love it, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the best thing as like a child growing up on your own. Swing ball, you don't need anyone else to play with. And I remember I was playing swing ball, and I was looking down the garden. There was like those massive, were they pear or apple trees? They were huge. And it was really windy, and I'm sure I heard someone say Anna, but it was like, Anna. So I ran inside. I remember I ran inside and said to you, "Why did you shout me?" And you said I didn't. But I wouldn't have been able to hear you anyway.
No,
because the door was closed.
But the house was over 200 years old, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember much. You've got some stories from that house. Go on.
Yeah, because we used to have two windows in the kitchen, so you could see if anybody walked past. And whenever I was cooking, they used to walk past the first window, but I never saw them walk past the second window, they seemed to have disappeared.
What did they look like? Just a figure?
Yeah, again, just a black figure.
What about when you were changing me
You
as a
and
baby?
When I was always changing Anna's nappy, I used to lay her on the bed and I had my back to the door, and somebody always used to come in and touch my legs from behind, and when I turned round there was never anybody there.
But it didn't feel bad.
Oh
in
no,
that
it was
house.
never, I was never ever scared. I've never been scared of anything like that.
And I think sometimes you go into places
And you can
and there's a
feel
bad
things.
feeling,
Yeah,
isn't there?
yeah, you can't.
Even if it's a nice house or a nice place, doesn't matter. Sometimes you just get a bad feeling. Am I boring you? My mum's yawning.
No.
There was a nice house though, but I think
Yeah.
older houses obviously they creak a bit more, don't they? And they make weird noises and they can be a bit spooky. And then we moved to another house which was newer, but that house always made me feel a bit weird. And I remember being in the kitchen with my friend at the time and thinking that he'd shouted my name. And I swear we used to see people walk past the hallway, but it's almost like just a black. It's just so quick, isn't it, in the corner of your eye?
Yes,
But there's no one
yeah.
there. But I think as humans, sometimes you sense like you're being watched, or you feel like you're not alone. But it doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
No.
You just feel like you just get like an instinct.
It's funny because I was watching Jonathan Ross programme the other night, and he had I don't know his last name, but he's a poet called Benjamin.
Zephaniah.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
He is, yeah.
And he was telling a story that I think he was at some friends or something, and he said this girl that he knew, that they all knew, came in the door, walked all the way past them, they were all sitting down in it, and she came in, walked all the way past them, and went out the other door. And he said she never said anything, and they didn't think anything of it until later on. They found out that she'd been in a serious car accident, and she said she had died for 5 minutes or something.
And that's the time
And
she
it was the
walking.
time, and I thought it was such a
That's
really
so weird.
It was, so, and Jonathan Ross said, the good thing is, he says, I believe you, what you're telling me. He said, because obviously he's a really well-respected bloke and everything. Plus the fact there was quite a few people there at the same time. And I thought that was such a nice story, that.
It is. But don't you think it's weird because a lot of people wouldn't believe that? If there weren't other people there.
No. But he said that she just walked. They couldn't understand why she never said anything, or
Yeah.
she just walked past them all.
What about when Grandad Bob, your dad, died and you were at the hospital?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, there's a saying that when somebody dies in a room, you should open, well, we believe you should open a window, because to let their soul out, otherwise it's stuck there. And me and my sister, she just lived near the hospital, and her husband was taking my other sister home. So I says to Mary, I'll walk down home with you and then he can take me home later. So we were walking from the hospital, and we kept hearing, well, I kept hearing footsteps behind us, and I kept turning around. It must have been about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, so it was dark, and obviously there's nobody else around.
And that's the time of morning when people say this stuff happens the most as well.
And we were walking, and I kept turning, and she says to me, why do you keep turning around? I says, well, can't you hear that? And she says, hear what? I says, there's somebody following us. And she says, oh, don't. She says, you're scaring me. I says, but honestly, I says, can't you hear it? And I was convinced that it was my dad.
Which is
following us
quite
home.
nice, isn't
Yeah,
it, really?
It was.
It's comforting in a way.
Yeah, it was strange. And then another time, obviously, because it was my dad who had died, for some reason, I was scared for a while, so I used to sleep with a candle.
After Grandad had died.
Yeah, lit next to my bed. I always had a candle, although I've never been scared of the dark. And my sister got a bit worried in case something caught fire, so she bought me a nightlight, but I never ever used it. I still used a candle. And obviously I was still grieving. It took me a long time. I'm talking about years. And then one night I had a dream, and I was at the railway station, and I was on one platform, and my dad was on the other side, on the other platform. And he said to me, he says, Margaret, he says, you have to let go. And then I woke up next morning, and it was like a feeling of peace.
Relief or
yeah,
something.
like peace, that he'd gave me permission to stop grieving. Although I still miss him. And I didn't have to use a candle at night. I wasn't scared anymore.
How weird is that? But again, it's comforting, isn't it?
It was so vivid. That's what he said to me. I could see him on the other side.
It's weird because I think, well, we'll get onto sleepwalking in a minute, but I often have dreams of my grandma, adopted grandma, we call her Winnie, and I say to her in the dream, am I dreaming? And she'll say, yeah, but just stay for a bit. And then she'll say, you've got to go now. And it's like it's not like a dream. It's like you go somewhere and they're there, a different world. And I'll say, I'm dreaming, aren't I? And she'll say, yeah. And then we have a conversation. But it's like I'm talking to her now. It's not a memory. Do you know, it's the same house, it's the same everything. But in a way, it helps you deal with it.
Yeah, it has.
I was thinking the other day, like, what if kind of heaven or this place where people go, and in a dream, you go to visit them, and it's like a parallel universe where everyone's still alive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So tell everyone about my sleepwalking.
Yeah.
Because that's a bit creepy.
Anna's got a habit of sleepwalking. When she used to stay with me.
Well, even when I was little, though, as well.
Yeah. Used to sleepwalk quite a bit, and you could have a conversation with her. Her eyes are glazed over, but wide open, and you could have a conversation with her, and most of the time I'd ask her what quietly, really softly, what was wrong and what she wanted, and she used to always say, you just don't understand, and then just turn around and walk back to her bed.
I remember one time you came and I was opening drawers. Do you remember that time?
Yeah.
Opening and closing the drawers on a cabinet. And I remember another time, because I never remember it, obviously. The next day you tell me I sleepwalk, and you tell me that I said something bad's going to happen. And then when you said, what? I walked off.
It's funny. It's just your mind's just strange, isn't it? Everybody's.
Yeah. And to think that where do I go? What am I thinking of? And it's usually when I'm stressed, like if I'm really stressed or really tired. And I remember one time I sleepwalked, but I woke up and I was standing outside your door, and that's why they tell you not to wake someone, because it was so disturbing, because I woke up and you wake up and you're talking and you're walking. It's horrible. Another time, I remember I was on your sofa and I was talking. I cried.
Yeah, because I thought you were wide awake, and you weren't. You were wherever you were. You weren't actually awake. You were sort of obviously dreaming something, but you could still have a conversation.
And then when you wake up, it's awful. It's a horrible shock. So, talking of Winnie, who we've just mentioned, my adopted grandma, when she died, that same night, I had this little box, didn't I? Wooden box.
Yeah, but before that, when Winnie, we've known Frank and Winnie since Anna was born. They used to take care of her while I went to work. And
they became my grandparents.
Oh yeah, they're like another mum and dad to me. But Winnie was quite ill, and they had called the vicar and everybody, all her relatives, to go see her before she got really bad. And I got a phone call from her daughter saying, you need to come now because they don't think she's going to last very long. But Anna was in London at that time, and she came back. And we weren't going to go see her that night because obviously the whole family were there. But then Anna decided she wanted to go because Winnie's other granddaughter wanted to go, but she didn't want to go on her own. So we went, and the house was full of all the
family, everyone.
Yeah, the family, the grandchildren, and all this. But apparently, the vicar had asked Winnie's daughter if she'd seen everybody. Everybody had gone to say goodbye to her, and they said, oh, there's only one person, which was Anna. She hasn't been yet because she's been in London. And they said because sometimes when people are are dying, they want to say goodbye to everybody.
They don't like having unfinished business, let's say.
And they said that sometimes they wait till
Yeah.
a particular person comes. And,
Well, after I said goodbye to her, it was a few hours and that was it.
well, no, basically when we walked out the door, she died.
Which makes you think people can hold on to certain extent.
And everybody was saying that she was waiting on Anna because obviously she loved you that much.
And maybe she needed that,
Yeah.
you know, and I said to her, it's all right,
To
you
let
can
her
go
go,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think some people hold on. Obviously you die at some point, but I think they hold on and wait.
Yeah, I do.
But
I
that night, particular night, I had this box and it had a necklace that Winnie had given to me and a hanky and a Werther's original. And it was on my bedside table at my mum's house because I was staying there. And I heard this noise like that. That's going to be a big bang on the microphone. And looked over, the box was open on the floor, like it had smacked against the wall and hit the floor. But how is that possible? It's not possible. The windows were closed. It was about 2 a.m. The door was closed. No one else was in the room. I was on the other side of the room. It doesn't make any logical sense, does it?
No.
There's no way it could have moved. And the fact that it was something, you know, that was Winnie's and it was the night she died. Sometimes it makes me think, are spirits like restless? Are people restless when they die and they don't know where to go before they settle? Because I think that same week, didn't the pictures start falling off the wall?
Yeah, but some people say that that's not a good thing if a picture falls off the wall.
I don't think we've ever had anything too bad though, have we?
No.
Well, one time at your house there were sort of these black shadows, but I think I have gotten over active
Yeah.
brain as well. In my house now, this house, the cottage is about 250 years old, isn't it? But it doesn't feel bad at all.
No, it's a nice house.
It never creeps me out. Because I think some people think all old houses are haunted or creepy. But someone will have died in here.
Yeah. But it's a calm house, it's not.
Yeah, it hasn't got that bad feeling when you
No.
walk into it. Which some places do. I don't know why. So do you think ghosts exist, Mum? Or spirits?
It's difficult, really. I think I do. I think I do believe in it, and I think sometimes they're sent to if you need.
Comfort, maybe?
Yeah. It's like me for some reason when I was I became unemployed and money was quite tight at the time. Anna was quite young. And I kept finding £20 notes everywhere, even in the garden under the hedges. A £20 note, or under the seat in my car, and
It's funny little
weird
things like that, yeah. Or sometimes when I think about Nana, we smell her, don't we?
Yeah, because
her cigarettes.
yeah, strong smell of cigarette, and that sort of question things like that because, all right, you could say, oh, I left the £20 in my pocket, but I know
but it's
that
the right time, isn't
Yeah.
it? Things seem to happen at the right time.
Yeah.
And you do wonder if your granddad was like that. Maybe we're a bit like that. I used to freak my mum out because I come in the room and the TV would go funny. Do you remember? So who knows? But it's fun to talk about.
because even my sister's husband, he used to wake up in the middle of the night and he used to see. He said he used to see a little girl standing at the end of the bed. And then later on, when we looked into the history of the house, because it was a new house in a new area, and before it was built, it used to be an orchard that belonged to another family.
Well, we got cut off, but it wasn't a ghost, it was the battery. What were you saying, Mum? New build.
Yeah, when my brother-in-law, like I said, he always saw this little girl, and they had a little girl at the time, but she wasn't as old as that, and they thought it was her that was getting out of bed in the middle of the night. And it turned out that this family who owned the land before, one of their little girls had died. So they think it was the ghost of her that used to haunt the house.
That's sad though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But he was absolutely petrified.
Yeah, but you would be, wouldn't you?
I suppose maybe because it's children.
Yeah, children are a bit more creepy.
But I know another time me and your dad, we went out to a restaurant with some friends of ours, and it was a really old, really old pub, and apparently it was supposed to be haunted, and one of the people that we were with, he said that when he was there before, he actually saw this man dressed in with a white powdered wig and everything, and really old outfit,
Edwardian.
standing on the stairs, and he thought it was a fancy dress night or something, and then he found out later on that everybody thought he'd seen a ghost, because apparently and this person has got a really good reputation. He's not one for telling fibs or anything like that, but he did say that he actually saw somebody.
You could really freak someone out, couldn't you, dressed as a ghost? So what's the plans for Halloween, Mum? You're going to just turn your lights off and pretend you're not home?
Turn my lights off and pretend I'm not in.
Do you know what? I think it's nice. It's nice to celebrate this time of year. And it's nice when all the kids get dressed up.
Yeah, and I think this year, because of COVID, because we haven't been able to do anything for a while, I think everybody's really put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, to make up for it, kind of.
Because a lot of the gardens where we live, they've went really big with skeletons
cobwebs
and ghosts.
Yeah. Life's short, isn't it? You have to do these things. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little spooky story conversation. We love this kind of thing, don't we? We love talking about this kind of thing. And yeah, thank you for listening. Do you want to say anything, Mum? Any words of wisdom?
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. By the way, last story, but at our old house, the farm that I grew up on, there was like a chain in the barn, and it had red paint on it, and I used to tell all my friends at school that someone died there and that it was blood, and everyone believed me. I think everyone thought I was creepy, but yeah, it was just paint. Bye from me.
Bye.
Bye.